Amanda, thank you for being here. If anybody else comes in, we'll just let them in, and we could just start getting going in a minute. I know you were working on your SMART goals, so how far along are you from working with the life pillars, the ladder?
So yeah, I just finished Life Pillars. So that's done. And definitely like while I was working on it yesterday, it was like very inspiring for me to like think of goals. Excuse me. Yeah, so like I have like a few ideas for goals. But yeah, I'm definitely gonna be thinking a lot about that over the week. Like, how do I actually make them, measurable and achievable and all the, check off all the boxes.
Yeah, that's awesome. Level of difficulty on doing the ladder exercise, which for everybody out there, the ladder exercise would be when you rate your values against your core values against your life pillars. And let's say if you rated a 5 out of 10 of how fulfilled you are, then you need to identify what a 5 is, what's a 6, and 7, 8, 9. That's why we call it the ladder. So how would you rate the level of difficulty for you?
I would say it was like kind of middle of the road. Like it wasn't like so extremely difficult that I really felt like overwhelmed. But it did require a lot of thought, like really thinking about the meaning of the subcategories. Like having that is really helpful because then I can say like, for like career, I guess is like schedule, finances, and collaborations. And so like, how am I really like if I was comparing it to being like hands-on or like altruistic, like just breaking it down into like what does it mean to be altruistic, what does it mean to be hands-on, and what does it mean to like serve my community or to serve my career. And so like it felt like a big puzzle, but like once the pieces were in, it came together a lot easier.
Yeah. So that puzzle, you're putting places in place. So it sounds like in some ways you gain some clarity from it. Okay. Well, if you're okay with it, can I open yours to be able to like, let's just work on it directly? Because
Yeah, why not?
Sure. So let's move this over here and let's just go to sheets and let's go to. So for everybody out there, what we were just talking about was life pillars. So step 5 here, which we covered on the last session. So before I get going with that, I'm just going to start today with a little bit of the presentation over here of, what is it that we're covering today? This is a 3-part webinar free series that I call the Unapologetic Life. And it's intended to set you up for everything you need to be able to get to this point, that is establishing SMART goals for 2023 and beyond. So today's webinar is how to bulletproof your SMART goals, because even though that most of us know that SMART goals mean specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound, it's way more complex than that. We confuse it with process versus outcome goals. There's many other things that are involved that we need to be looking at. And having a coach walk you through this, especially the first time, is really great. It's key because then you're going to get better at doing this on your own. And that's the key here. So what are you going to learn in this webinar? You're going to learn how to reverse engineer your goals into smaller yearly, quarterly, and weekly tasks that will optimize your ability to be able to achieve whatever goal you establish. Reverse engineering, if that's not a common word that you use in your lexicon or not sure what it is, it just means that you're going to jump ahead, know exactly where you want to be, and figure out all the steps working backwards in chronological order that need to happen to achieve a goal. So today's table of contents, We're going to cover what is a SMART goal, benefits of SMART goals, common mistakes. We're going to talk a little bit about our previous webinar and how does it tie into part 3, Bulletproof Your SMART goals to thrive. We're going to talk about the fillable worksheets and Google Sheets, do some problem solving, provide you additional resources, and a Q&A at the end. So what's a SMART goal? All right. We kind of already know that it's specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. But a lot of times our issues with our goals is they're not big enough to inspire us. And then we're going to go a little bit further into detail of when we want a goal that's big enough, right? And Amanda, I remember when we were doing that ladder, and I think you had a 5 of a score on 1 to 10, and step 7 might as well have been, you figured out it was actually step 10, and it was that place that you're like learning discernment of I'm aspiring. I think it's so simple, but there's so many steps from here till that outcome goal that need to happen, right? So
there was a lot of that where I was like, start with a 10 almost. Like, what is my 10 out of 10 look like? And then, like you said, reverse engineering, kind of going backwards and saying like, okay, then like, what are the little pieces that get me to that 10?
That's awesome. Yeah. So let me just check over here make sure there's not anybody else trying to join. I think Zoom will. I think it should notify me easily. But anyways, so benefits of SMART goals. So these are the same across the board with life pillars and core values. If you have clear SMART goals and they're established, if you're going into 2023 knowing what you want that year to be, you have a higher chance of really setting into this mindset that life happens for you. And a perfect example of that is 2019 December. I had decided that I was going to hit a certain threshold of my finances, and by the end of 2020 I was going to launch myself fully as self-employed. So that meant I had to leave my cushy sales job. Also had thought about living alone. Pandemic happened, accelerated everybody's life. I decided to move alone in June, which I just saw it as, again, like part of the plan. I was like, you know what? I can't live with 3 people right now. It's too hard because of pandemic. Moved out. So I just saw that as part of my plans. And then July came around, and once I had a bigger rental mortgage to pay, suddenly now I was unemployed. But because of my goal setting in 2019, at the end of 2019, I was like, well, this is life. This is what you said you were going to do. You have the savings, you're living alone. You need to step up now and do what you said you're going to do. So I saw it as a blessing in disguise. I'm not going to say it still didn't sting at the moment that you're like, wait, you're letting me go,
pushing the baby birds off the cliff.
Exactly. So there's a lot of benefits of just thinking ahead. And again, this really, what I'm talking about there really feeds into that first bullet, stress management reduction, because I was getting ahead of what the change was inevitable. And here I was, and I already had made a decision to make these changes. Improve decision-making and problem solving. Your health is better, assertiveness, compassion, wiser career and work choices, your confidence, you feel better. The only way that you gain confidence is by putting yourself in challenges and starting at the bottom and realizing you don't know what you don't know, and you start getting better, and then your confidence grows, right? Like, it doesn't just let me sit and wait till confidence comes. It's you have to take action. And it creates intimacy because you could plan for all these things. Some common mistakes that we do, and I had a lot of fun like thinking about these, because even though that we know that SMART goals, like I said, each one of those letters signify a simple word, it's still not that easy. So some of the common mistakes, and then I gave you some solutions to it, was unspecific goals. You need to think what, why, who, where, which. If that's not being answered, it's not specific enough. Unmeasurable, right? You need to be able to have it to be measurable and verifiable. So how could you quantify something? How could you incorporate math in figuring out the percentage of you're achieving a goal? And if you can't do that, it's still not a SMART goal. So how much, how many, by when? Is it attainable and not feasible? So you have to really be discerning and ask yourself, let's say, I don't know what the limit of age to be an astronaut is, but maybe you wanted to be an astronaut and the age limit, you already exceeded it. So it's like, is that a feasible goal that you're aspiring versus are there other things close enough that you could experience working with astronauts or something else? So is your goal feasible? How is it irrelevant, right? And irrelevant goals is a big issue because sometimes we still establish goals based off of what we think we should be doing. And this is a lot of my 20s. Those are goals that a lot of my 20s, it was like I was aspiring for things that I was conditioned to think, and the white picket fence story and the career and the relationship and everything else, that then it blows up in my face and I realize, like, do I really want any of this? Why am I aspiring for it? Why am I setting goals? Because I think that's what society wants. And I see you nodding your head over there.
Yeah. I mean, it's just all this is very relatable, kind of like, yeah, I mean, what else is there to say? There's been a lot of time where I have wasted my time trying to achieve something. And then it was like, is this even what I really wanted in the first place? Yeah.
Yeah. And that's important. If I use 3 measurements for answering that question, how relevant is this? It's high, medium, or low.
Okay.
That'll tell you when where do you need to keep this goal at? So if it's low, you're looking probably a few years out. If it's medium, you're looking at maybe a year out potentially. If it's high, it needs to be now. If it's not high, why are you planning for that right now? Unless you have the time, and that's okay. But we're always short of time, basically. So I find it really difficult to believe that something that it's a medium priority, you're going to have the time and allocate it for it. And when you prioritize your high relevancy only, is when you're going to feel more motivated because there's something you're going to gain immediately, right? Or you could see the path. So high, medium, and low, those are indicators. And something that's right now a medium, in some time it could end up being the high priority. And those are just things you have to just think about. Poor time estimation. Oh my God. This one is the hardest one for me personally, because I will think that I've learned now that everything I set out to do, it's probably going to take double the time I planned for. And that's it's been a hard lesson to learn. Yeah. So by when I want to complete my goal and how often, what's the frequency of it? One way to be able to solve for this is once we establish your goals, I make you slash them by 25, 30%.
Okay.
To almost guarantee that you're going to hit a higher percentage without killing yourself.
Okay. That's an interesting tactic, setting them high. That's definitely okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you just, and that 30% that gets dropped off, now you have goals for the next round that you could just evaluate those to be if they're high priority. Right. But again, it's just realizing that step between 5 and 7, going back to that example with you, it's not 7, it's really 10. And you're planning for a 10, thinking it's a step 7. And, you're like, that's a good, when you slash it, you realize okay, you have more breathing room. Too many goals. Something to ask yourself, how will this goal enhance or impact other areas of my life? Again, for anybody watching the live feed, this is a third webinar on the unapologetic life, how to bulletproof your goals to be able to thrive. So we're going over the common mistakes right now. This is also going to be recorded and shared on YouTube. So if you could always go back and watch it. Confusing outcome versus process goals. All right. Something is a step that's within a outcome goal. So like an outcome goal could be graduate from your degree. Every class that is part of that curriculum is part of the process. Now you could create a outcome goal just for a class, a semester, and you have certain process goals that are included within. The process goals are all the steps, every little task that needs to happen. And you want to be able to figure out like a schedule, like the day when these things happen. You want to break it down into the most simple steps as you can, and then put them in chronological order as a schedule. And that's how you know how much time something is going to take. And you could see the projection, and you could see if your poor time estimation is still pervasive. Lack of next steps for each goal. So this one is also, you might think that something's redundant or not. The step is simple enough. And sometimes a step that's really critical is literally getting started. Walk away the next day, pick it up and keep doing it, because that literally will hinder your progress. So what are all the steps needed to achieve this goal? Unrealistic expectations. What is the level of difficulty of this goal? Some goals are probably so big that just in one and having other goals at the same time, it's not going to be feasible to be able to work on them. So understanding the level of difficulty for each goal is really key. This is just a little review of what we covered last time and how to live your values without guilt. Here we taught you about figuring out your life pillars and how to be able to prioritize them. These are all the links. This is on YouTube. You have a worksheet. You also have a Google Sheet, the presentation, audio, and recording. We're going to go over that just briefly. And then today you're going to have a worksheet also and a Google Sheet to be able to calculate your SMART goals and the next steps that go along with it. So let's go to that. See over here. Let's go now to Amanda's worksheet. Let me just check over here. We're all good. Okay. Okay, so for everybody watching, the three workshops, the first worksheet was values, life pillars, and SMART goals. So Amanda has additional ones because we've been working together, but we're just going to do a little quick review on what we did on the previous webinar on how to live your values without guilt. On step one, we figured out which is the main category of your life pillar. And a life pillar it's an area of priority in your life. And step two, we figured out all the subcategories. So subcategories being, so you have a life pillar of personal growth, and we figured out that education, emotional, personal well-being are subcategories of this. The same thing with all the other ones. Then we rated each one of these life pillars. And then we took your core values. I'm sorry, what's that noise? It's kind of feels, do you hear it? It's kind of breaking up.
I actually don't hear that now. Let me put my computer on mute.
Okay, let's see. So yeah, so then what we did was we took, we had figured out already Amanda's core values in the first webinar. by doing a series of exercises, and we had determined that she had 6 of them, and then we define each one of them. Those then we compare each one, girl boss against your personal growth, and we score it. And anything that scored below 7, we ended up evaluating a little bit further, which we call step 5, right? So girl boss versus community. We had Amanda basically evaluate and tell us, why are you a 5? If you feel that you're a 5 out of 10, which is like middle of the road, then define that middle of the road. And then the challenge is, how do you increase that? How do you increase that 1 step? How do you increase that 2 steps? How do you increase that 3, 4, 5 up to 10? And from this work that we evaluated each one of these red values that are below 7, which I'm pretty sure this took a lot of time. She had a couple of them here. She has 4, 8, 9 in total. So then
Probably took like 2 hours.
2 hours?
Oh, yeah, maybe 2.5, like an hour here, an hour there, and then an additional half hour to like clean things up.
Good. That's really good. I mean, that so from there, establishing your SMART goals today should be much easier, because where we're starting off today, this is just an example. Before, we don't need to use this. We're just going to use yours directly. So from that spreadsheet that is available to everybody on the SMART goals, we're looking at, it's already pulled the values of the life pillars. So it pulled your career, community, personal growth, and wellness. Oh, sorry, we put them in order. We sorted them by your main priority. And something to know about when you're doing this, you might be really big on community, and community might be your family, other things, and putting it second or third or fourth doesn't feel right, because it doesn't mean that it's not it's not an area of importance. It just means, does this need your major focus right now for the next 3 months, right? If we're doing quarterly goals, or for the next year, could you put that at, third priority or so, or like second, like you have it? What is the highest priority you should have right now? And then you could again look for the next round of goals. You could make a value of focus mostly on community. So that's the important aspect of it. For each one of these areas, we're going to be creating, for career, we're going to be creating 3 goals. For community, we're going to focus 3 goals, 2, personal goal 3, and then wellness, we're going to do 1. If you had other ones, we would do 1 and 1 also. And then we're going to figure out the next steps for each one. I also want to share here a little bit of what does the worksheet looks like in comparison to the spreadsheet. So this is a fillable worksheet, and it'll take you step by step of like, pulling your information on your life pillars, which ones they are, going through the questions of like yes or no, if it's specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, time bound, making a goal for each one of these life pillars. Again, the first 3 life pillars will have 3 goals each, so that you're hyper focused on those, and you're going to have a bigger increase of fulfillment in those areas. And then eventually there is the next steps that you could see that you figured out all the steps and you put them in chronological order, and then you're just checking through them as like tasks in your week. So if you prefer one over the other, I like to use the spreadsheets particularly. It's just, I could see things better and it's easier to work with for me. But that's everybody's different in that way. So, okay. So if we're looking at career, the first thing I would do is if you don't have goals already from the top of your mind, Amanda, I would look at career, and I would want to definitely focus on how to increase these numbers that were below 7. So if we look at career, you have a 2 as a girl boss, a 4, a 6, a 1, and a 5. And then we need to look at how did you define these things, right? Always going back to the definition. So how did you define girl boss? You said being able to connect with people intimately, but yet professionally, right? So when you're looking at each one of these, now we need to start thinking as how could you create a goal that could sometimes hit multiple areas of your core values? So have you thought of any goals, Amanda, that you would like to start discussing and trying to figure out?
Yeah, so some of my goals were like income based. So one of them was I wanted to be making $1,000 a week. Um, so as you know, I'm unemployed right now.
Mm-hmm.
So my income right now is at zero. But so I guess that would probably be like my bigger goal, like
Okay.
maybe within a year. Because at this point I'm trying to work for myself. So I'm trying to find like multiple income sources that will total to $1,000 a week.
Okay. Alrighty. So that's a good one. So earn 1K a week, self-employed. Okay. Um, so perfect, right? So that's a pretty good and clear cut one. Um, by when you would like to start earning 1K a week as self-employed, right? So that's like, uh, if we're setting quarterly goals, is this something that you want to work towards, give yourself some time, and 2 months you start doing that, and if you start hitting that, then and good, right? Because the difficult part of that could be really tricky, that depending how you establish it, is if you set yourself up to feel like you're failing or you're succeeding. So if these goals start, when would you like to, when's the time frame of these goals are going to start taking off? Is it immediately?
Probably not. Like I'm definitely waiting to get through the holidays first, especially considering like the nature of my work. um, so yeah, I want to start, we'll say like January 1st is probably when I'll start like locating sources of income, like really kind of taking the smaller steps. But so $1,000 a week would probably be starting in like March, realistically. I mean, I would like to happen in January, but I don't know if that's actually attainable.
Okay, so so that's right. So that's when you start. So this might be a goal that if you wanted to establish quarterly goals, or if you want to establish like half a year goals, that would make the difference of if this is something that gets tabled for the next quarter, or is this something that you start addressing now? So what would you prefer? Would you want to make these quarterly or half a year?
I think quarterly would be good. I think I can work in quarterly.
Okay. So yeah, exactly. So I'm going to start like writing over here, right? So if you want to earn, I'll just grab it from upstairs, from here. What are the things that need to happen prior to um that need to, right? Like what outcome goals could you create now for the next 3 months that you could hit?
Yeah.
That are going to eventually lead into, okay, the next quarterly goals are, I'm established, I need to start like trying to earn now $1,000 a week.
Yeah. So I think like the first step is that I would want like actually a part-time job where I'm employed by somebody else so that I can have like a steady flow of income just in case. And then there's also like establishing like other sources of income. So I was like maybe like doing like setting up an Etsy where I can sell my stuff. And then, I'd have to take pictures of everything and post them and actually do like the content creation and management aspect.
Okay. What in out of all those options, right? So we know that this is going to be Q2. So whatever you're establishing now, let's say we're already we're mid-November, we're mid to end of November. So you're looking at December, January, February, right? So this is, for all purposes, we're just going to call it Q2 because you're kind of right now establishing like your first quarter, even though it doesn't line up with the year. So how, out of these three, which one is the highest priority? Which one, like, and what's the order, right? Like, what needs to happen first?
I think that's a tough one because I'm like, probably the part-time job. Like, more realistically, like, it's gonna take some, like, even if I did all the stuff to like set up an Etsy right now and like had it ready to go, it probably still would take some time to get off the ground.
Okay.
So yeah, probably a part-time job first would be my priority. Or you know what, maybe sorry, like, maybe it's the other way, because right now I'm completely unemployed, so I have the time to do all that stuff, maybe get it up and running, and then like once it's like a little bit more established, I can fit another part-time job into my schedule.
Okay. So do you think it's an Etsy account first?
Yeah, I think so. I already have an Instagram, so I mean, like, maybe like update my Instagram might be step one. It's been a while since I posted.
Okay. Yeah. And then, so I'm assuming that's the order: Etsy, part-time, establishing sources of income.
Yeah.
Okay. So now we're going to go over here. Just this alone, right? If these are three areas, that alone already is like three goals within ABC.
Yeah.
But we could do this for now, and then we could determine if that's what you want to do, or you want to leave maybe goal C for later on and focus that on something else, right? We'll determine that when we look at your life pillars again. But okay, so NC account management. So how do we make this a SMART goal, right? How can we make this very specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, time bound?
So I guess like starting with making it specific, that would be like making sure I like upload like a certain amount of products or like a niche. Measurable. Okay, this is the hard part.
Yeah, but you're right. So in your thought process, you're giving ideas out there. That brainstorming is key. That brainstorming, if you notice, I already started inputting it in next steps, right? Because that's your process. And then you have to figure out and sort it out. But the major outcome goal here sounds to be, if I'm getting this correct, is you want to have your Etsy account store up and running, your account. And then there's going to be, you're going to figure out, like, you're going to be posting, selling stuff on there, a frequency.
Yeah.
So setting up the account is a step within, right? The outcome here is you want to sell.
Oh, sorry, you keep breathing just a little bit. Sorry, can you repeat that?
Yeah. So the outcome here is not establishing the account, right? The way you're going to be able to measure your success is you're wanting to sell products.
Okay.
So see how suddenly what we think is a goal becomes a process goal, right? Instead of an outcome goal. So here it would probably be Etsy, selling products selling products weekly, or like what's the
Yeah, I think weekly is a good goal.
okay. What would you say then?
For what?
So is it too much of a big goal weekly?
I don't think so. I think weekly is attainable.
Okay. By when would you like to be selling something weekly? Like,
Let's say like start of quarter two. Like, so that would be March or April.
um,
So I'm like setting up in the first quarter and then like selling by the second quarter.
okay. Selling products weekly on Etsy by account by April 1st. Okay. So now I ask you, is it specific enough, right? And when we think about specific again, we go back to the little common mistakes here that I gave, but right? It's think what, why, who, where, and which, right? Is it answering all those things? Right? I think it is. Is it measurable? So selling products weekly, you could even get more specific if you
So
want.
maybe like 2 products.
Yeah, you could get even more like, yeah. Selling 2 products weekly on my Etsy account. Now that's measurable by April 1st.
Cool.
So from here to then, right, it makes it really clear that you could not sell for months, but as long as by April 1st you start selling 2, you've met that goal.
Yeah. That's kind of exciting.
Yeah. Is it attainable?
Like it feels attainable. That's
okay.
Yeah.
Is it relevant? How relevant is this to you? Is it high, low, or medium?
I would say medium.
Okay.
Like, because I know it's not like high relevancy because I know it's not gonna pay my rent. But it is something that's important to me and like something that I think is like it's like an important stepping stone.
Okay. All right. So this one is kind of lukewarm because you answered medium and time bound. We said April 1st, so that meets it. So we're going to leave that there, but just something to notice that goal could probably be trumped by something else that could be a higher priority. Right? So part-time job, same thing, right? Like what about part-time job? What are we trying to aspire? Is he objective to get one part-time job? And if so, by when?
Yeah. So I think that I would like to get a job by the end of January where I'm working part-time. Right now that's kind of like up in the air because of the whole career change aspect. Like if I knew I was going to be going back to like work in a kitchen, it would be super easy and attainable for me. But because I'm trying to do some new stuff that I don't have a lot of experience in, like I think it's gonna take a little bit longer to find somebody who will hire me.
Okay, yeah. So start a part-time job before January 31st. So we go back to, is it specific? Are you saying what it is? It's a part-time job and you're saying started before 31st. Is it measurable? Yes, before January. That's a yes or no that you succeed. January 31st came around. Did you do it? Is it attainable? You have a month, 2 months, 2 months and a half, a little bit less. Do you think that's attainable time?
Yeah. I mean, especially like I think if I wanted to make it like a bigger goal, I would set like a dollar amount maybe on how much I wanted to be making per hour. But at this point, I'm not sure I can be that picky.
Okay. Okay, that's but it does help if you're not comfortable defining the upper limit then at least define the lower limit.
Yeah. Yeah. So like $1,000 a week would be $25 an hour for 40 hours a week. So assuming my part-time only covers half of that, it would be, what is that? $13 an hour, which that's attainable. I can definitely get $13 an hour. I think 14 is minimum wage in California. So
Okay. Okay. But it's still good to put it there because what if you get a remote job that it's not California?
yeah, that's true.
Right. So at least you're at least caging it in a little bit to be more it's going to help you target better.
Yeah.
So is it relevant? How relevant? High, medium, low?
That's high.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's time bound. So okay. So here that automatically, because that's high, you answered that one high. So that would go, goal A would be that one versus the Etsy, right? The Etsy would come in second to what you're trying to accomplish. Because you answered it medium. So now let's look at how do you establish goal C? Establishing other sources of income.
Yeah. So that I think is going to look more like fixing my 401k, setting that up. Or like I do have a Roth IRA. This is kind of a funny issue, but I somehow created a second Roth IRA with the same email. So I have two, but I can't use either of them. So that is something that I would like to have to ensure income for my future, but is definitely going to take some organization and proactive action.
So is this establish other sources of income, or is this, because this one is really kind of, you work with what you have already.
Yeah.
So what is this
So
goal
like,
really? Yeah, what's the main category? What's the outcome goal here really? Because I put this as I already put that one as a process goal.
okay. Oh, I see. Okay. So I think like the outcome of this is that I have like a source of passive income. So like even if, I'm sick for a week and I can't go to work or I don't sell anything on my Etsy, then I know like there's like a safety net for me.
Okay. So when you say, okay, so is this like do you have an idea what this is already, or is this like the goal in this quarter one is to figure out, research what sources of passive income could you have?
Yeah, I think like there definitely needs to be some research into like where I would like to invest my money, like what will be profitable for me and like what places will be profitable for me, but also align with my values. So like the outcome would be that maybe I'm making like a certain dividend per year. I don't even know if that's really something that I have control over.
Okay. So you're talking, okay, so yeah, that's a hard one to have. I mean, it's a goal, but this outcome goal would become a lot about, the process of it would be a lot of research on different sources of investing that could, it would probably be a mix of high risk and low risk. So low risk is the easiest way to go, in a way that you would be able to always hit a dividend, but you would mix that up. So it's, that's one of the things you're thinking about, right? You're considering crypto and you're considering the 401k like you're talking about, then Yeah, you're talking really more
I
about
do have an alternative
investment.
goal that we can use instead if that seems less complicated, at least like for this seminar, which was to do like quarterly pop-ups with another chef. So like that would be under like the subcategory of collaborations. So like for example, in March, I'm planning to do a spring equinox pop-up with another chef friend who also makes ceramics. And so, you know, the serving plates would all be for sale, but people would also be coming to, you know, enjoy my culinary talents.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it all depends, right? So again, it goes back to the biggest question here is relevancy. We have, we have the part-time that seems to be clear. Like that one needs to be probably the first one. And
Yeah.
then you're establishing your Etsy account, and then research. You could even, I could even see, like, I almost feel that you could merge B and C, and
Yeah.
you could merge B and C, and you could have a goal. The goal C could be the pop-up, but because you're already planning on doing that, so that's going to take time and effort already. Because the researching other sources of passive income, this kind of really falls into it. It's probably, yes, it's time consuming on the research end of it, but if it's only really about investment, then it kind of could go tangent with the establishing your Etsy account, right? Or you could just table one and leave it for the next quarter. It's depending how you think that you have your time. The other part of that is you can make this goal more meaty. And once you have all your goals established, you could realize that's too much. It needs to be split.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you see the lay of the land then.
Yeah. I mean, that definitely makes sense. Like, I think between like finding a part-time job and creating an Etsy, like getting that set up and like actually devoting the time to running it, is going to take a lot of my time. So like, I think having that goal, like kind of having one that's, well, I don't want to say like making it, I mean, that's my like low priority goal, I guess.
Which one is the Etsy?
No, the like 401k / like other sources of income, like the passive income.
Okay.
Because that's something that like I don't really have my foot in the door at all on that. So it's like I'm really starting from scratch. So like there's a lot of like base level research that needs to be done before I can move on to step 2.
Okay. So it sounds like we got another goal for quarter 2. Because yeah, so that's what we want to do, right? We start realizing like, okay, thinking through all these, am I like just overreaching with what I want to do?
Yeah.
Incredibly, how do you call this? Cooking pop-up?
Yeah. Yeah. Like dinner pop up or something like that.
By March, when?
20th.
Starting March 20th.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Cause that's going to have a lot of tasks. That's going to have a lot of stuff internally that you're going to have to prep for and think for. And especially it's your first one. And then from there on, you could just repeat the formula, twitch it as you need.
Yeah.
Okay. So cool. But see what we did of where you were thinking just on the career end. You ended up with 3 for this quarter. And you already have 2 for a following quarter, right? Which is
Yeah.
just really interesting. So what I'm going to do is just I'm going to end up cloning this and putting it here so
Oh,
that,
my second quarter.
yeah, because these are, you're already
Yeah.
thinking of these things. So if you don't really kind of, these are good ideas, and it's important for you to like get them out of your head and put them down so that they're not just like bombarding you and feeling like everything is competing at once. And this is how you start again organizing. And we spoke about this lateral thinking, right?
Yeah.
That everything is just like versus we want to like make it linear as much as you can, and that will reduce your stress. That will make you feel more in control of your life and your destiny. So we just leave those there, and we're going to call this Q2 potential goals. So because you already you're starting to work through some of these, but you're like, okay, not now, table it. It's there. I don't have to worry about coming back to it. Okay. So part-time job. What are the things that need to happen so that you have a paying job a part-time job by January 31st?
I need to start filling out applications.
Applications.
Yeah.
So apply to jobs.
Yeah. But I think also like because of like, I don't know, this whole idea like that I want to change careers, like, so this is still very kind of open-ended for me where I'm like, do I want to focus on more like science really? Like, do I want to focus more on mycology? Do I want to focus more on like, I don't know, maybe working in a art gallery or something like that? Like tying my job into my career. Still not entirely sure what that looks like. There, like I said, there would be, if I wanted like an easy job, I would just go back to like being a cook. And I know that there are places that are hiring. But like again, finding a place that aligns with my values and like I trust that they're not gonna like overstep my boundaries or ask me to set my boundaries aside for like the sake of profitability. Um, so I think like there is like a step of research. Like there's also like the step of doing interviews, like, kind of having that be like a two-way street of like, I'm also interviewing them. So like, even if I'm offered a job, like I might not necessarily take it. Um, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So what I'm hearing, well, what you're saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, is uh, there is an exploration period, which I'm calling it as identify viable part-time jobs that are aligned with my core values. That's the first thing that you're like, what's out there? What interests me? What could I do in this moment in time? Then interview and network with viable part-time jobs, right? So that you could really see if those industries with that type of work would be something that would appeal to you. This is all before you're entertaining applying.
Yeah.
Then apply to,
So yeah,
I mean,
applying is like step 3, I guess.
well, at this point, then it's research available jobs,
Oh, I guess that's true.
right? Like you start thinking, even breaking it down more, research available jobs, research available viable jobs, part-time jobs, part-time. Then you could even have another step here of like network, right? Like see if you
Yeah.
can find people that are working there already and talk with them.
I think like one of the things I put in life pillars for career was that I wanted to like go talk to some of the farmers market vendors for people who mostly sell like, mushrooms or honey, eggs and stuff like that, and see like who needs help.
So network with employees
Yeah.
for potential part-time job application, part-time job interest. Okay, and then so that's another idea that you brought up, but that niche is what you're doing, right? More specifically to that would kind of go over here, right? It's interview and network with viable, because you already kind of identified one, it sounds like. You have identified a job, a part-time job, or you identified at least a group of people.
Yeah. So like I've put in some applications already to like small urban farms. I have not heard back from that yet. So even though I know they had a job available and it was something I was interested in and aligned with my values, feeling was not usual. So
Yeah,
just having to accept that.
that's okay. So what I'm thinking here is, even within this step, there's like, I'm going to put it here as one of the groups, right? Because they're going to be more that you're going to find that could be viable, and you're just identifying them. But see how you start breaking it down. So you like identify viable part-time jobs to align with your core values, interview and network with viable part-time jobs, or and you have identified urban farms and farmers markets as good source that you want to start networking with. Research available viable part-time jobs. So now you're like being proactive of, okay, I narrowed down my search. I've networked, and the farmers market and urban farmers gave me some hints, insights to seek these type of jobs.
Yeah.
Now you're checking to like if you have any available openings. Then now you're going back to let me network with, if I could find employees that I can network with that work at that company, and apply to the job.
Yeah.
Okay.
So then now we're finding like next step after apply.
Well, this would be a lot of like, you would be doing this kind of a rinse and repeat through a lot of them. So you would have to create a big enough funnel that, this one is it's tricky because for each job you're going to have to like do the same step.
Yeah.
Right. It's a iterative process. Also, you might have to go back to talking to somebody, but it gives you an idea, right? So then the other thing would be something that would help you, right? Like when you start becoming more tactical, create a tracker, create a job hunt tracker, and input potential interest. See what you're doing there. You're taking it even a step further, because the other step is, kind of like, so you just create a tracker.
Yeah.
And then you start inputting the tracker. What are things that you think that you might like that align with your core values, right? And then you keep, right, what other things need to be placed. So then as soon as could you start this, right? Like what's the first day that you could get going with this?
Honestly, I feel like I could start now. Like if I'm telling people that I'm looking to start after the new year, like I can, like there's a farmer's market here every Sunday, so I can go start talking to people because I already like, I guess like if I develop the tracker, like I do already have like in my notes app on my phone, like a list of like job ideas, like things that I think would be like cool or fun, interesting, like good learning opportunities. So just like maybe making that like a little bit more organized, and then finding like specific places of interest, and then seeing if they have jobs available, and then sending in applications.
Okay. So that all makes sense. So when do you want to get going on creating a tracker? Right? Like
I think
that's
that's something, yeah, I can do
yeah.
that like now.
Like
Well,
now.
not now, but like in an hour.
Okay, so you're gonna start today. Okay, great. So let's put today's 11/17, right?
Yeah.
So, so you
That
come
is
in.
something, yeah, that's like, well, I guess we talked about it being high priority for me already. But I'm really anxious about being unemployed, even though I know I don't have to be.
Yeah, so just doing that task today, you're already started to move in the right direction. You're starting now. The next thing your mind's going to start thinking when you create the tracker is, what type of jobs do I think it would be interested? And you started doing is inputting the data, and then the next time is researching. And at the same time, you're still probably thinking about jobs, and you just keep adding and you research as you go, right? So
Yeah.
when do you think that by when you could start inputting data into that tracker?
I would say like probably by the end of the month.
Okay. So this month has 30 days because it's okay. So there you go. And then how much time do you think you need to be able to um, interview farmers market, or like start doing that process, like
Yeah.
that networking?
I think that like would give myself like 2 months. So like by the end of December.
Okay. So that means that by December 31st, you would have had to complete that one. You would at least
Yeah.
have started to, minimum the urban farms. I'm actually going to separate these because these are two separate ones, right? See how my mind functions, of how like you're like, oh, it seems easy as one task. You're like, no, those are two separate things. That
Yeah.
takes time.
Yeah.
Urban farms and farmers market are two different things. Like you already have two places there you have to network, and then you might know multiple people, and that keeps adding on, and that you just keep breaking that outline like into more steps, right? So now what is research available viable part-time jobs?
Yeah. So that one is the one where it's like I feel like I jump in on that, which I guess is actually like step 4. I tend to go to that as my step 1, even though I know it's not. But like kind of just seeing like you just like as simple as like Googling part-time jobs near me, seeing what comes up.
Yeah, I'm almost feel like that should be right here.
Yeah, like maybe like before I start pestering people, like know if they're actually hiring.
Yeah, like that, because it will make it more effective. That kind of, then that merges. Yeah, this kind of makes more sense, because also
Deliberate.
if you're pushing back on interviewing or talking or networking with people till the end of the month of December, then from here to then you have a lot of time to be able to let's
Yeah.
say you start the tracker, you give yourself to the end of the month, that's a good time, and then you give yourself another week, right? Let's say you say 12/7 22, you're doing research, so that then you're looking at, do I have enough time between when I'm doing research and setting up my interviewing process with people?
Okay. Okay.
And also, because these are viable jobs, this might happen faster,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
if they're available jobs, I mean, not viable, right? So, but again, you could end up completing this sooner. Um, this, I find it difficult to not believe that that's not going to happen sooner than that, because it's almost going to be back to back. You saw that there's a job available, you
Yeah.
identify the areas that you want, you saw there's a job available, you're interested, you're not going to wait, you have to like connect with somebody, talk, if that's a good if that's still determined a good fit, you're going to have to apply. So
Yeah.
they're almost all kind of aligned, like at least the networking and the applying, because that you would apply immediately after you network.
Yeah. So I think like having like the 31st is my deadline to start applying for jobs is like, that's knowing I'm really going to get it done sooner than that. But also kind of giving the wiggle room of employers, because I'm sure they have their own holiday plans. Like, I guess it gives me the wiggle room of like when I'm going to hear back. And then also like, like the farmer's market is like once a week. So like, I might not talk to every single person on one day, just like go back this week and talk to one person, and then next week talk to a different person. So I think it just gives me more time to get it done, because it doesn't need to be done right now. So do you think that I'm giving myself too much time?
No, I think that's good. I think where you can make this a challenging goal is in that last next step, because we could put a quantity
For how many jobs I need to apply to? I think that's probably a good idea.
If you do that, then you know that what feels like 6 weeks, you're like, I need to get on it every week.
Yeah. So like if it's like 6 weeks, I need to apply for 6 jobs.
There you go.
That's terrifying.
So then how you know if it's a good goal is, one, you said it's a little terrifying, but then you evaluate it.
Yeah.
It's still attainable.
Yeah.
Right. Is it and because it's the highest priority, then this makes sense that this will, you're going to incorporate this in your schedule, and then everything else is going to fit around that. And then because it's also important that you have identified top priority, second, third, fourth, you already know that once you establish one, two, ABC, you're going to then look at, okay, how hard am I going on community goal A, B, C, and then eventually, like on wellness, you're not going to put a goal that's going to be extremely too challenging and exceeding, because that won't be productive for you. But because you have so many competing, right? We don't want to have too many hard goals, but just the idea that you are intentionally creating a goal for every aspect of importance in your life, you could lower the stakes, because when have you ever really done that? When have you really sat down and said, I'm going to move the needle on every aspect?
It's been a while. I was actually thinking about that earlier. Like I remember when I was going to culinary school and we were taking like the business classes, something a lot of the teachers would do, or the professors would include this like 5-year plan. And then like the next level of that was like thinking of it as like spokes on a wheel. So like every time the wheel turns a little bit, like then you're like adding a new goal. And so like at the time that was really helpful for me. And I like set all these goals, and then I was like, okay, by the time I'm 25, like these are the things that I'm going to have in my life. And then when I hit 25, I was like, okay, like I did all the things. I have my degree. I'm like in a stable relationship. I moved across the country. And then I got to that point and I was like, oh crap. Like I never thought beyond those, like that 5-year plan. And so then I was like, well, now I need another 5-year plan. And it's taken me 5 years to think of my next 5-year plan. But yeah, so it's helpful to like actually feel this organized. Like I would say like since I turned 25, so really it's only been 4 years. I've just been feeling like really aimless, and like that's hard to live with. So like knowing that even though like I have like 1 or 2 to 3 like actual goals and like things that I'm doing in my life, it seems like a lot, but I think really like it's just going to make me feel more organized and more in control.
Yeah. And again, like going back to this, the idea of this is when you have them all already established, you already realize that we're slicing some of them, that we're realizing that is not this quarter, right? That's some separate time. So we keep identifying that. So that's just there. Imagine if I just let you establish these goals and not put some more boundaries around, the amount of relevancy, time estimation, all those things that we spoke about, the common mistakes. Then you're going to come back to this and you're going to look at it all as a whole and say, is this attainable? Could I achieve all of these goals at once in the period that I set out to do them? And then you might realize, like, this is too much. And you're okay, so where could I cut back?
Yeah.
And you slice back. And my clients tend to accomplish anywhere between 80 to like 85% of their quarterly goals. And the funny part is that they feel defeated sometimes. And I'm just like, wait, take a step back.
Yeah, because it wasn't 100%.
You got 80 to 85%. That means you landed a job, you did this, you did that. And then they kind of like realize, and I'm like, you literally impacted every aspect of your life with multiple goals. Like, look how much you accomplished. It's not to have you in this process forever, but it's to help you understand how to be able to prioritize and focus and establish and be able to achieve what you want. So with that in mind, you now know how to be able to establish, right, and figure out the next steps. What I want to kind of like cover quickly is, now that we're looking at your career versus girl boss, hands-on, energy source, how are the goals that you establishing are going to be moving the needle from where you are, right? Like, girl boss, LinkedIn, all this stuff tells me this has to be what? Like, is this about the Etsy store?
Yeah.
So, right? So if you, and also you're going to have to be updating to be able to apply for jobs, everything else. So, find a part-time job, talk to vendors at the farmer market. That's already part of the task. So from a 3, by the end of the quarter, you should be set up you should be at an 8. Oh, the pop-up also is even there.
Yeah. Like, I literally just got that official yesterday.
Yeah. But, from there, you would create so much motion that you're going to feel really good with yourself, because you're going to feel good about the process that you've delineated. This is how I'm going to feel better. This is how I'm going to create the action, right? And then you're looking over here, hands-on versus career, right? And you define hands-on as learning by doing and the willingness to do. Get materials to grow mushrooms at home. So this is one that's not really kind of addressed in those. So that's something to consider. You don't have to address them all, but you want to try to be able to increase these numbers slightly, because these are the areas that you were scored the lowest.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? So then that's where you could go back to your SMART goals and be like, do I need to focus on this right now? Should I or how could I still find a way to improve these areas? Energy source, passive income. These are already incorporated with this one. If you get to up to this point, you're hitting.
I kind of realized there was a lot of crossover. And so maybe focusing on those points where one actionable goal meets multiple needs.
Exactly. And that's exactly what you want to do. Even when you're doing that with your core values against your life pillars, that again, for people watching out there, it's the ones that we identified that there was your lower scores below 7. When you're doing that, even with your goals, they could literally, you could find harmony with them, right? If you could find goals that support other goals, that is the key. The ones that overlap, that is the key, because that means that you're gaining back a lot of your time, and it's going to be less effort on your end. Again, always remember, it's ability over motivation. How could you facilitate the action taking? Cool.
Yeah. Yeah. I I don't know if you can see the wheels turning.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I could tell you already that you felt like a 1 when you evaluated yourself on your rating of career, just
Yeah.
career, which is finances, schedule, and collaboration. And then when you averaged out all your core values against your life pillar individually, you evaluated them, it averaged out to 4.3.
Yeah.
So there was a big disparity of how you were seeing just your career versus when individually your values. I could guarantee you that based off just looking at your steps that you delineated here, they're just this one, a bump from 3. You could, if you land a part-time job, you will be at a 7, right? By delineating those things. And the same thing with the other ones. I could see this score of overall a 5.8 that on average you ended up having 7.1. You're going to increase that really fast.
Yeah, that's true. It's kind of nice to think about. Like when I like seeing it with the numbers, because it's like you said, like people were getting really discouraged with like an 85% of goals met. But it's perspective. I don't know. My brother always tells me C's get degrees. So like not, striving for ultimate perfection, but doing the things that I want to do, everything else will work itself out.
Exactly. So your process now is to continue to build out all the remaining ones. And here you have some already processed things to think about. And then do the rest of the ones here. Then you're going to when we meet next time, we're going to slash back on them. Something to think about too, that could be really helpful is once you determine the time frames for all of these, when they're going to be happening, you could literally create a list and put them in order of a sort. And that's how you also look at week by week, and you go, this needs to be incorporated into my schedule. And that's how you're making sure you're hitting all the targets that you're wanting in different areas at once.
Cool.
It's a little maddening to continue the process continuously always.
Yeah.
But you'll gain a lot of structure from this that if you do half of goal setting that you're doing right now, next round, it's going to be a huge improvement.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I can already tell a huge difference. I mean, it's kind of like we talked about last time, just like generally being more disciplined. That has been like my highlight of the week is that I'm like, oh my God, somebody described me as disciplined. And just like slowly inching towards that, just being like a regular part of my life.
Yeah. And just wrapping up over here a little bit, it's, there's an additional resources here. There's a YouTube video there to watch. It's inspirational about why it's important to get the right goals, and also how to figure out do goals, right? To take action. It's we are in the state of being or doing. And right now you've been learning how to be so that you prepare to do. And we're at this stage now that it's like, we're clear who you are. We're getting clear what you want. And now it's like how to get it, all the steps to be able to get it. Right. So do goals. This is just stuff like offering of like how I work with people. And then just a reminder, everybody out there, I specialize working with highly sensitive professionals to help them get out of the overwhelm to design their dream lives. In career and life, it's everything I do. This has been really fun given this 3-part webinar series. I've never done this before. It's my first, and I wanted to be providing some resources out there. I'm going to be doing this again, likely in March, for all the people that are probably going to be late on establishing their goals in 2023. Don't worry, I'm coming in 2023 in March, and we could pick up and make sure that you're set up for the rest of the year stronger. So Amanda, again, thank you so much. You've been a champ. It's been fun doing this with you here live.
Yeah, thank you.
Anybody that tuned in, thank you. And all these resources are going to be sent out in my newsletter. It's YouTube channel is going to be, and it's on my website too. So any questions or any final close out comments, Amanda?
I don't think so. Although I did notice you recommended Brooke Castillo for the podcasts, and I totally underestimated her. Those were really good podcasts. They were really helpful.
Good. Thank you. I got shout out to Brooke Castillo, which is my favorite coach out there. So awesome. Thank you so much, Amanda, again. And I'll see you next week.
All right. Awesome. Thanks, Naftali.
Bye-bye.
Bye.